There we go.
Great. Hey, folks. Me and Adam are just going to take an easy one here and just have a bit of a chat. Nothing pre-prepared, except for the article you can see in front of you. Very little preparation has gone into this. As you can see, I've already messed up the introduction. So, right, Adam, we've been talking a bit about Roman roads recently, and you found a little article, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously it's a topic close to our hearts in the Britain's hidden history sphere.
Yes.
It's a notion which is something we've grown up with in Britain, which is this idea that the Romans brought everything here that is civilized. Obviously, I think looking at history and looking at the Wilson Blackett stuff in Britain's hidden history, this is more. I feel it's more to do with this kind of 19th century trend of fashioning Britain as an inheritors of an imperial mantle, and it depends a lot on the civilization of a savage people, basically, and you know what that has come with naturally is a suppression of the Welsh narrative, the British narrative of an already civilized peoples coming here and populating the country way before the Romans, and we're starting to see evidence pop up all over the place of roads which were already here, and roads which what this article is about is basically aligning the old narrative put forward by people like Geoffrey of Monmouth about these stories of British kings. We've got Belinus here. Belinus, I think in the 4th century BC, who was known as a prolific road builder. So that and now we've got evidence of the roads which are underneath the Roman roads, which coincide with that, which is what this article is about. So, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a well-maintained and well-built British road beneath an ancient Roman road in 2011, which I'd never heard of, actually. This is the first time I've heard of this. So, and the evidence contrasts what modern texts teach about the primitive pagan peoples inhabiting the land before Caesar conquered it. So this article is pretty thinking along the same lines as us at Britain's in history in that sphere. We're dealing with this stigma, false stigma of a primitive peoples incompetent. So it's an ancient road. This ancient road just south of Shrewsbury was cobbled and even engineered with a camber for draining off water. The Daily Mail reported it even has a curb fence system to hold the edge in place. So it's not just gravel road tracks. This is well thought out, and it's pretty sophisticated engineering. Totally contrary to what you'd see if you walked into a museum in Britain. I think the town that I live in Rochester. So Rochester is on the A2 in Britain, which is the old road which goes from Dover to London, and it's a pretty old road. And you walk into the museum there, and it says the first thing it says when you walk in is that history starts when Julius Caesar comes to Britain. This is when history starts, guys. There's no history before that. Don't even look at Geoffrey of Monmouth. It's thinking along those lines. Tim Molim, an archaeologist working on the project, told the Daily Mail the traditional view currently is that the Romans came over to Britain, built the roads, and civilized the people. But we have found this road which was built before the Romans invaded. Fantastic. So, there were roads in ancient times. The Romans probably did an overlay. Why wouldn't you put an overlay over a road which is already there in use and known about?
It's what we still do today.
Absolutely. We do it every 6 months here though, because we can't overmap properly.
Yeah. 6 months? We're
Yeah,
lucky if it happens every 3 years in Devon.
Yeah. Yeah. You're always
Yeah.
putting new something.
I've got a road near me where grass grows in the middle of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. The only knowledgeable and civilized people that could have built the roads so well, which means these ancients were not at all primitive in their abilities to build designs like we do today. So this article goes on a little bit. It goes into the kind of histories that we talk about on this channel in Britain's hidden history. Going towards that kind of Geoffrey of Monmouth traditional Cambrian narrative view of history, which would tell of, like I mentioned before, King Belinus, who was prolifically building roads.
Have a look at this. This just caught my eye. What I said about the Fosse Way, they've Geoffrey says from the tip of Cornwall, and then in square brackets Totnes.
So
he doesn't say it goes to Totnes. He says from the tip of Cornwall.
Yeah. They've just,
which would be St Michael's, Mount Penzance, Land's End.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know why they chose Totnes. Probably because of the archaeological evidence at the time.
Yeah,
probably why they put Totnes for that. But yeah, I just thought. So Geoffrey says Cornwall, so that's interesting.
Brilliant. We like that. We like Geoffrey of Monmouth on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. This chronicle itself, the recently translated from ancient Welsh to English, provides details about these roads, including how their layout is reminiscent of the striped pattern on the British flag. What do you think of that one, Pete? This one here.
Yeah. Well, I remember. Is it Hugh Evans who does the?
Oh yes.
He did a thing on the British flag about the color system. It's basically like a compass, I believe. He was, so you had oh god, I can't even do it. But that's a fantastic little video. No, I thought that was very interesting. But yeah,
we should look into that actually. It's very it's like a once and future sort of pattern imprinted into the landscape somehow.
And also this idea of geodesy and mapping the landscape seems to be very important from ancient cultures in Britain. Well, ancient cultures all over the world, but in Britain from the Neolithic period, there seems to be this the way that certain sites line up. We always talk about the Michael line, but just oh god, that was amazing. Adam, you should watch. What's he called? He does loads of videos on Brittany and Karnak and the geometry and the layout of the sites at Karnak. And he's released a set of videos recently, lectures on Stonehenge, things about Stonehenge I'd never heard of before, and I'm absolutely amazed I'd not heard of anyone mentioning before as well. God, right, I'm gonna look. Right, you continue with that. I'll just try and I'll send you a link for that. All right.
Yeah, no problem. That sounds great. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll have a look at that. Right. So and so he, Belinus, summoned before him all of the stonemasons of Britain and commanded them to build roads of stone and mortar according to law. And not one of these roads ran through such cities as lay in its path from the tip of Cornwall up to Cape Bladden. Caithness. Is that how you say it? Caithness?
I think it's Caithness.
Caithness and Albany. The entire length of Britain and another walk. So you also got the Belinus ley line, haven't you?
Yeah.
Going from Southall, which you've spoken about before. So Belinus becomes this figure in the British kind of metaphysic, which is to do with a spine. to do with a connection from higher to lower, lower to higher rather. And I've got the book somewhere. Gave it to Alex, my partner. It's called the I think it's called the Spine of Albion, and it's got all these nodes, to, kind of like spiritual hotspots for for the ascension of if you want to do a sort of pilgrimage up through Britain, which goes up to some pretty interestingly significant sort of megalithic places as well.
Yeah,
so you know,
like, are they like chakras almost placed?
Yeah,
up the
like
spine?
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
That kind of,
yeah.
And you see a lot of people at the moment going to these places and sort of offering healing to these different areas of the land, if you will, sort of like a bit of a interaction with the land in a healing way. So interesting stuff. That's the kind of role Belinus has in Britain, and even today in sort of some sort of spiritual circles has some kind of significance even today. So it's interesting.
Yeah, but Belinus it gets confusing, doesn't it? Because there is obviously historical characters of this name, and also a god, a pre-Roman god.
Pre-Roman god, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to use the C word. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I understand.
A Jupiter, Zeus sort of thing, but yeah, sun god as well. So really Apollo. But and I think this is, I always try to sort of like get this across to people, that when people like to talk about mythologizing the British kings, is that partly to do with a sometimes purposeful confusion between historical characters and their metaphysical counterparts.
Yeah, very central conversation to have.
And that confusion could have happened on both sides of the, because it's very common for historical people to get mythologized in some way, but also get associated with certain certain other characters and ideas. We talk about the relationship between Arthur stories and Christ as well. These things sort of develop, and it's not necessarily, doesn't fictionalize the real person. It just adds another layer of interpretation to the metaphysical aspect. If you ask me, it doesn't make the historical side less important. But
no, absolutely, I'm with you on that one. It's interesting. It's a good look at I guess the psyche of a people, the kind of imagoes they want to hang as a hook on certain figures in history. It says a lot about a culture of people, and I think it's all information there to be analysed and had a look at. And
absolutely,
it's all got its relevant context. So good stuff. So artifacts like well-maintained stone roads built prior to Julius Caesar's 55 BC invasion of Britain and ancient chronicles that plainly state that is exactly what took place. Not to mention the name of modern-day Billingsgate matches the King Belinus's chronicled name. I didn't know that. Do not all support secular historians' assertion of an opaque history featuring vague iron, bronze, stone, primitive, even ape man ages. After all, British chronicles, as well as those of several other European nations, trace their kings' ancestries all the way back to Japheth, Noah's son. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So they're obviously going from a Genesis perspective. So this is from the Institute of Creation Research. So they're going from that perspective, but they're looking at real archaeological evidence in Britain in terms of roads. And also, I think they make a very interesting point about there is an idea, whether you associate it with a religious idea or not, there's a very strong idea in archaeology of linear progression. Stuff must get better and more complicated as it becomes more modern. But
absolutely,
that's an ideological perspective. It's not a fact. And in fact, when you actually study history, you see it's a lot more of ups and downs as things change. Basically, we're not just on this constant upward spiral to become something better. You know, things can go down the shitter again.
Yes, it certainly feels like that today, doesn't it? In places. So yeah,
Yeah.
feels like it could.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
That was great, and I think that's really, you know, brings into one of the points on the Roman road video. They found these roads on the LiDAR. Do we even know they're Roman? What? And if there were some built between 50 AD and 410 AD, that's fine. But were they just built over the top of a previous road?
Yeah.
And they can't make an assumption until they've dug it up. Frankly, and it's a shame that we've got to destroy the evidence in order to understand it. But you know, when we make our claims through the British records, we're asked for physical evidence. Well, I think we should demand the same of anyone with coming from the other perspective as well.
Very good points. Yeah.
So that guy I was talking about is called Howard Crowhurst.
Okay.
Right, and you should, his stuff. So he's like an English expat who's been living in Brittany for ages, and he's done loads of great work on Karnak. But yeah, he's done a Stonehenge. I think it's called Stonehenge New Revelations on YouTube. I'll send you one, and there was some great stuff in there. Really great stuff. That was something I've been watching, which I really enjoyed. I've also been reading Chris Barber and Pickett's The Legacy of King Arthur.
How you getting on with that?
Yeah, it's good. It's a lot more. I mean, it's called The Legacy of King Arthur, so it's about after the period, a lot to do with the Normans. But it did sort of solve one thing for me, which I never got why the Normans were so interested in the British histories when they got here. Like, I never really understood why they were so keen. But then what they outlined was this idea of when the Romans came into Normandy. When the Normans arrived in Normandy, when they spread west into Brittany, they did what they did in Wales, and they intermarried with a lot of the families there.
Yeah.
And of course, they got to know the legends of King Arthur that way.
Yes.
So then the Normans, looking to establish themselves in this part of the world, were then very keen on it. King Arthur became theirs as well. You know, it became something they went to. So then when they were then confronted with it again in Wales, it was like, oh yeah, but this is something we've got to, this is ours. We already know this, and we want to make it our story. Like, we don't want it to be your story.
Yeah.
And also the idea of the threat of a once and future king as well, a king that can return,
It's a very dangerous and potent idea. It was something with Owen Glendower, that was very strong for that motif that came back with him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the bit that confused me though about Glastonbury. The idea being that, who was it? Was it Henry the First or Henry the Second? I can't remember.
Henry the Second, the guy who dug up he supposedly found the skeletons in Glastonbury Abbey. Yeah.
So apparently Henry the Second said. So I don't know if this is Henry the Second's logic is flawed here, or whether Barber and Pickett's logic is flawed here. But they were saying that he'd heard about the gravesite from a bard in a Welsh court. And the reason then he wanted to prove that there was a corpse of Arthur was to almost prove to the Welsh, look, your king isn't returning. Look, he's dead. He's dead, and he's dead in England, right?
Wow. Never thought of it like that. Yeah.
If he got the idea from a Welsh bard, then the Welsh already knew that King Arthur was dead in England. So there's either a flaw in Barbara and Pickett's logic there, or a flaw in Henry II's logic. I'm not sure which one it is.
Or a purposefully misleading
yes,
bard
absolutely.
who probably knows all about King Arthur and where he is.
Yeah.
But you've got King Henry II who's desperate to do something publicly to regain his reputation. He killed Thomas à Becket. He wasn't a popular guy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I would think, it makes sense that he's probably desperate. He's got this guy. So I know where King Arthur is.
Yeah. The Welsh know he's dead, but they keep on saying that he's coming back.
Yeah.
But I'm going to prove where his bones are. Yeah.
Interesting, man. Yeah.
They say that the bones were actually real, but they were probably of King Arviragus. Which is, I sort of get where they've got to that, but it's a funny book because and I find this with other researchers working on the same topic, is that they make some quite, exciting claims, but they don't get in the stink like Wilson and Blackett do. And a lot of their claims are based on very tenuous evidence, Why is it when researchers like this make mistakes or make claims, then they're just wrong or mistaken, and when Wilson and Blackett make claims like that, they're forgers and misleading, and what's that about? Why that double standard? Especially when so much of Wilson and Blackett is based on real solid research, the same as and where you can find other researchers who support them and think it's good, solid work as well. There's plenty of people, like serious researchers in the field, who would not say that a lot of Wilson and Blackett's work is built on very solid ground. So, I thought that was interesting.
They're very, very good points. Absolutely. Yeah. I like how they've reached the same conclusions on who Arthur was, which I really like that. They did it their own way.
Yeah.
Got to the same Arthur of Moirig.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they start that book by saying, look, the 6th century chronology is a really big problem, and people need to look at it.
Yeah.
Something's gone wrong here. And I think that's great. The other thing in the book
isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing in the book is St. Armel.
Oh, okay.
St. Armel is who they believe to be Arthur ap Moirig in retirement in Brittany.
In Brittany, right?
Okay. They reckon he changed his name to Armel, which is basically half mile.
Yes.
And just like Moirig, just like Tudrig, he retired into the church in old age. That's their belief. I don't know what to do with that. I think it's an interesting idea. It's certainly a possibility. I don't see why not. Why it interested me is because St. Armel is recorded in Devon. Is he in Devon or in Cornwall? I think he's in Devon as St. Erm. Now, Erm is one of my big tinning rivers that I'm very much interested in.
Right.
Now, you don't often get, although a church or a farm or something like that, I can see named after a 6th century British saint. Can't imagine a river being named after a 6th century saint, because especially quite big rivers normally have much more ancient names that, way older than all our Brythonic names basically for rivers.
Yes.
So it seems odd. But the other possibilities were it's been recorded as the Arm or even the Aram. And Aram is a place in the Lebanon, which is where we get the word Aramaic from.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good little one for a river name, especially as the other obviously major river in Devon is Tamar, and
Yes.
Tamar is a Hebrew word for the date palm. And literally Tamar, you don't need to mess around with it at all. The word is Tamar. It's a very ancient word, and
Yes.
yeah. So that was so Armel got me sort of thinking on this this other little train of thought really about the River because the current explanations for its name are not good enough. They say it's because there's a place nearby called Ermstock or something like that, which is it might be Stock. I've got the book in the other room. Ermstock, which is meant to be the farm on the River Erm, and they say that that's where the river got its name from. But that's a circular argument. You can't say that the river got its name from the farm, which is called the farm on the River Erm. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't work like that, does it? No.
You know,
Yes.
so that's not good enough for me either. So at the moment, it's either Saint Arm or Saint Armel or Aram, but I'm not sure. That's one of my little mysteries at the moment.
Another one to add to the list.
Yeah.
No, that's great stuff. Interesting.
Oh, there was one thing I forgot to mention on our little Cornish video as well, was when I was talking about Breock and Freock.
Yeah.
The other place name we got in Devon is Brixham, and that's associated with St Breock as well. So
right.
Yeah, that was actually the one that sent me on the little rabbit hole with that one. But yeah. I've got a couple of other tangents, but if you've got something else, let me know as well.
I think I'm out. I'm out of steam. I'm out of what's it?
You've been working too hard, Adam.
I know, mate.
You haven't been doing the fun stuff enough.
I haven't. I do as much as I can when I get in, but
No, I don't blame you. It's exhausting. Let me could I have a share? Is that all right?
Yeah. Right.
We're looking forward to the Britain's Hidden History meetup, aren't we, Adam?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm afraid I won't be able to go, but I will be following it intently. I am absolutely super stoked to hear Marshall's talks on her book. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. I just need to pause a second. I am still recording, honey. Great. Right. Let's get on with this. I'll just do you with this. So one thing I wanted to do at some point was like other stuff on Dartmoor archaeology, which I was like confused about, or doesn't add up to me. And I wanted to do maybe a 1.5 hour little presentation on it, but I'm never going to be organized to do it. So I think every time we have just like a casual chat, I'll just do one little one or something like that and just do it. All right. So this is Grimm's Pound. This is one that always comes up as like a great site to visit on Dartmoor. You've got zoomed in. Let's have a look. Oh, none of these images are good. This is a good one here. So I don't know how well you can see that, but you're looking at one of these Bronze Age enclosures that we looked at quite a few of on the mining video. But can you see the size of the wall there, Adam?
I think, yeah, I can see a wall, yeah.
You can see a wall. That's a good start. I don't know if we can get in any closer.
No,
we're just skipping. But basically, it's the wall at Grimm's Pound. The reason why it's quite famous and a lot of people go is because the wall's like 2 to 3 meters thick.
Wow.
Yeah, in some places they reckon it could have been up to 5 meters high as well. Big chunks of granite. The entranceway here, this is what we're looking at here, is absolutely fantastic. This is easily as like 6 foot high here on either side. And you can see it's paved on the way in. So
yeah,
Britons did know how to pave things in the middle Bronze Age, right? Going back to roads again. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic place. I did want to find a better picture, but never mind. You can have a look yourself. There's a few videos about Grimm's Pound as well you can find online. A lot of people visit there. Now, it's called Grimm's Pound. The Anglo-Saxon word Grimm is meant to relate to Odin, and basically they saw it as a warrior stronghold, basically. But there's problems with this. It's kind of like on the side towards the bottom of a hill. So, you know, if that old logic of someone could be up on the higher ground throwing stuff over the wall quite easily, it's not a very defendable place, right?
Right.
That's fine with me. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is what they think is that it was used for as basically the animal enclosure, cattle enclosure. Right, overnight, to keep the animals safe from you know, there would have been plenty of wolves, probably bears here at the time as well. You'd want to keep your animals safe. But I haven't worked on farms a lot or anything, but I've worked with animals and I've worked with cows, and I know what cows do to the ground. And if the people, there's about 20 to 25 roundhouses that were in use in Grimm's Pound. So let's say 5 people by house, let's say 125 people. So you need cows for 125 people. Let's say, I don't know, I'm going to go really low and say you need about 50 cows for that many people to live, right? Because these were, remember we said they're believed to be pastoralists, these people. They only really produce what they consume and vice versa, whatever. Now, if you keep 50 cows in a place like this overnight, right, they're going to stomp around looking for food, right? So if you've got kitchen gardens or anything like that near your roundhouses, they won't last long. The cows will be in there and they'll bloody eat it, right? You need some serious fencing around that if you want to keep them going. Also, if it's raining, and winter is probably the time they would have been getting these things in the most, so the food is scarcer for predators, so they're more likely to go after grazing animals, you know, go after human-owned animals. It's darker generally, so you can't keep an eye on the animals, so you bring them in overnight. So it's more likely to be raining. If you have 50 cows in that enclosure and it's raining, in 1 week, that would be a mud bath.
Ah, right. Yeah.
It would be ruined, and there'd be nothing for the cows to eat there. So even if your kitchen garden survived that 1 week and they went around eating the grass, then they wouldn't last week 2. Because the cows would be hungry week 2. So then you think, oh, well, these people needed feed. Well, that means they were not being pastoralists. They were growing feed somewhere, or they were trading with someone who was growing feed, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's one problem. Problem 2 is that where do people who are managing their cows all the time and either growing or producing stuff to exchange for animal feed get the time to build a 5 meter high, 3 meter wide granite wall? And for what? Right. Okay, so let's say they were the richest cattlemen around, and they had like extra cows. They had more cows than there were people. They had 200 of them. So that 1 week of rain where you're inside of your enclosure takes to get muddy now turns to 12 hours, one night, because you've got 200 cows in there or whatever. It would be wrecked. It's just absolutely terrible idea. Not good. So problem number 3 is this interpretation is the same for every single other Bronze Age enclosure wall on Dartmoor, right? And I don't know if you remember from our video, is that there a lot of these are just showing Grimm's Pound, is that the walls for most of these things are very small. You know, they might be a meter wide, but often because they collapsed. They probably had some sort of palisade or fencing around them, but a lot of them haven't been dug, so we can't really prove it. But that is the same interpretation given for those very small, very thin walls than is given for the 5 meter high, 3 meter wide walls. It just doesn't. Surely you need something else there to justify the scale of it. You know, you can't just say, oh, they use this for this and they use these for that, but they're completely different.
But they're different. Yeah,
they're completely different structures. And also, Grimspound is a pretty large enclosure with a lot of the houses inside, whereas a lot of the enclosures you get, they only have one house inside and they're relatively small. Again, like how many cows they think people were keeping in there and what state that ground would have been in after, you know, over one winter, you know, by January, it would have been bloody horrible. Like,
yeah.
You know, you also need a time after, say, the winter and the grass is growing again in spring. You're going to want your cows out of there for a couple of months so the grass can recover if you want them back in there in winter. If you're still getting them in every night over the spring and summer as well, there's absolutely no time for it to recover. And by the time it comes around to winter again, man, your mud bath is going to be a meter deep. It's going to be awful. So that's one of my things where I look at our local archaeology and I go, this doesn't make sense, you know? So yeah, that's a little bit about Bronze Age Grimspound.
Nice. Yeah, I'm with you. I think, it's unfair. You get two completely different structures being given the same label. No, it's not good.
Yeah, something's obviously going on here that's a bit different, else there wouldn't be an absolutely massive wall with a massive entrance, and you know, it's a different site and it requires a different interpretation, I think. So yeah, and that's a good one. You can easily, if you don't know the area, you can have a little Google and you can see some nice little videos which show it a bit better than I've managed to do here. So yeah, that's a good one to look at.
Brilliant.
And my one final note is I want to thank at least one Cornish person watched the last video and they liked it. So that's good. That's a good start. I haven't been undrawn and quartered by my neighbours to the west for doing a video about their history. So
I understand. Not that I really understand, but I understand that there is a kind of divide over the Tamar.
Yeah.
You guys throw rocks at each other, right?
But you know, I want my Cornish brothers to know that it's that boundary was invented by the Saxons in order to divide us. It wasn't, you know. Let's not forget that.
Let's not. That's absolutely, very well said. Yeah, that's good.
Right. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I really enjoyed that, Adam.
Yeah, no, that was great fun. Great fun. Cheers, Peter.
If you come up with when you get a bit of a break from work and you manage to get some sleep, you do a bit of reading, you just say, and I'll come here and sit and listen to you blither on about something.
Yeah, great. I've got so much on my list that there's not a shortage of things to do and talk about.
No, absolutely not. And it's great coming on here and just having the chat. That's why I do it. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah, and I think people are enjoying it, so that's good as well.
One person from Cornwall, so that's good.
Lovely.
All right. See you later, folks.
Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.